Boots and Backstraps, brought to you by Homes by Shayne and produced by Danny Geo Productions.
I am Michael, your future host, maybe. This week we have my pappy Shane and Tomcat talking about their hunts in Wisconsin and in Minnesota. Stay tuned for more. Come on now.
Ladies and gentlemen, hunters and huntresses, this is the Boots and Backstraps podcast.
Come on now.
The hunt is on, looking for backstraps, way deep in the woods, tracking in a swamp to a hay field under the harvest moon. When the tags are filled, it's time to switch up our boots. Head down to the honky tonk, get us a swing dance or two. We're talking about boots and backstraps.
This is the show where we talk all things hunting and country music. From the classics through today, from big bucks to bull elk, we've got it all.
Welcome back to Boots and Backstraps. I am your host, Shayne Michael, and I am joined in studio by my dashingly handsome and also very successful this year in your hunting, Tomcat.
Come on now.
Come on now.
It's good to see you, man.
Yeah,
It's
you
been
too.
a while since we've been in the studio, and it's so comfortable and cozy in the studio. We got our great friends, producer Danny and technician Jill, and Lynn Kitty is here today, and we got the fireplace going, and we're ready to tell everybody about some hunting stories and something maybe coming up in the future, and we're going to have fun today.
Yeah, you commented about how nice the fire looks, and I totally agree with you. I think it looks great.
Feels great, especially when I think it's 6 degrees right now. We've had
Is it that warm?
That's about right. We've had an old-fashioned winter here in Minnesota, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Not a tremendous amount of snow, but certainly we got the old-fashioned cold, boy. It's been a cold winter.
We got hit hard one time where it was like 18 inches. But other than that, we've had a couple of an inch here, 2 inches there kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the southern metro and the metro got more snow. We're a half an hour north of the metro, and I don't think we got as much snow here because I watch every snowstorm, and a lot of it goes south of us.
Can I tell you a funny story? One of my friends from Texas was telling me you can identify somebody from Minnesota very easily because they always judge distance by time. So, somebody from Texas would say, oh, you're 25 miles north of Minneapolis, or you're 50 miles west of this or that. And just now you're like, oh, we're a half hour north of the cities. It's like, yeah. Just made me think of that because he's totally right.
Boy, I don't know if you saw the news. I don't watch the news too much, but, boy, they have a mess down in Texas and all through the south and all the way up into Maine. You know, that snowstorm.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I took a baseball. I was an assistant coach of a college baseball team, and we went down to Texas, and they got an ice storm down there, and the whole metroplex, Dallas, Fort Worth, everything was shut down. They don't know how to deal. They don't have plow trucks, and they don't have salt trucks down there, and we slipped and slid and made our way to church one day, and
You're the only ones there.
yeah, pretty much. Well, yeah, I should. Yeah, it's been a long time, but I should correct that. We went to the church, but the church was closed.
Oh, geez.
We had a whole school bus full of college kids, and we finally got in a couple days before we had to come back to Minnesota, but it was miserable. They're not used to that, and it's bad down there right now.
Yeah, right.
Little side note.
Yeah, so I should warn the listening audience today that I do have a head cold, which is why I sound stuffy and all that stuff. I'm not contagious, so no, I'm not getting anybody else in the studio sick, and it's definitely not beer virus, so don't worry about that.
Beer virus?
The beer virus.
It was sake virus.
Yeah, sake virus.
It was Shane's birthday yesterday, and we all met at a Japanese hibachi restaurant, and our assistant Jill broke the world record.
She did.
Had 4 sake bottles aimed at her mouth at the same time, and
She probably drank a half gallon of sake last night.
I was watching her from the side, and the sake was just gushing over her chin, but she wasn't going to surrender. I have to ask you, Jill, were you swallowing while they were pouring it in your mouth? Oh,
As
see,
quick
I
as you
never
could.
did that. I just kind of blocked my throat, and I never thought about swallowing it as they were pouring it. Well, you weren't swallowing fast enough.
It's 4 bottles.
But I don't know how they must have had them things aimed at you for a full minute. There it is.
There it is, yeah.
There's 4 bottles. See, the one on the far left is the chef, and those guys can take that back like 10 feet and still not miss your mouth.
Yeah, it's
And
impressive.
And the pretty boy with the pretty blue cowboy hat is Shane. As his birthday hat.
And then Chris, Jill's guy, and he's having way too much fun in that picture.
At one point, he did take the cap off and just hold it over her head and poured it in there.
Smart guy.
We had a lot of fun last night. I love those hibachi restaurants.
Yeah, I think, Tom, I think you agree with me, having been to a fair amount of those, that was a pretty impressive level of service to the,
That
to the
guy
chef.
was fun.
Yeah, he was really good.
Lynn and I were sharing a story last night about I used to live in Aruba, and on our honeymoon we went on a cruise. We got married on St. Thomas Island, and then we went down through the islands and wound up in Aruba. And they had a hibachi bar there that I wish I could remember the name of it, but it was amazing. If you ever get to Aruba, it's right on the pier.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, if you are somebody that does cruise line stuff, you take a Caribbean cruise, Aruba's going to be on one of those cruises for sure.
Aruba, I said this last night, and I'm sorry, we're not anywhere as near the topics that we're going to be discussing today.
If they've seen more than one of our episodes, Tom, they know how this goes.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. Snake. I'm sorry, there's a fair amount of people in here that knew what that meant. That was an old, that was a funny from T-Roy, Troy Gentry. We were bear hunting, and I don't know if I guess I can share that.
Yeah.
It was cold out, and we were relieving ourselves, and I'm like, God, it's like going through 4 inches of clothes to get at 2 inches of deal. And he says, without missing a beat, he says, tell me about it, brother. Sometimes I got to holler, snake, just to get that little bastard to pop his head out. Whoops.
That is awesome.
I guess if you're going to do a cruise or go to the island, go to Aruba. It's an English-speaking island. They have the most beautiful casinos. They're not big, crazy casinos like ours. They're smaller, but they're real fancy, and they have the most amazing restaurants and the whitest sand for scuba diving.
Sure.
Aruba is the coolest place, so there you go.
I've been to Antigua, St. Thomas, St. John's, Tortola.
Yeah.
Those are all kind of in that same general area, obviously.
Not really. I'm sorry, just for geographical purposes.
They're all in the Caribbean, is my point.
Right. Aruba is only, I forgot. It's the southernmost island in the chain, and it's right off the coast of Venezuela.
Okay.
I mean, you can see Venezuela, and we went to Venezuela. They did a little tour thing there, but yeah, it's right at the bottom. It's kind of separated from the rest of the islands, and just a cool place to go. Lynn and I had a travel agency at one time, and boy, that was a fun place to go.
What have you not owned? I mean, seriously, I've known you for
I was going to say the same thing.
I've known you for, I was going to say 15 years. It's more than 15 years now. And every time we talk, I learn about another business you've owned.
Oh, you didn't know we had a travel
No.
agency? Called Travel Cat. We still have the
Of course
cards.
it was.
Are you serious?
Yeah. Our business partner was Dave Ulrich. Dave owns the spectacle shop, and he's got like, I don't know, 3 or 4 of those. But his big one is home base is in New Brighton, so we shared an office. It was a really beautiful, cool office. But don't you know that we had horrible timing. When we opened the travel agency, it was like a month later that they nationally put on commission caps. And like, you make like 10% of your sale. Like say if we sold a $5,000 cruise, we'd make $500. Well, they put a cap on it where you can only make $100, or what was it? It was all structured, so it wasn't 10% anymore. You just had a commission cap on it, and it was like, well, that's why you don't see any travel agencies anymore.
No.
Just a couple of the big ones are still around.
Well, that and you have the advent of these websites like Travelocity and Orbitz.
And that was starting to happen as soon as we opened up the travel agency, too. But we had it for, I don't know, a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, and it was fun. When we went on, we took advantage of it and went on some trips.
Nice. Very nice. Well, let's get to our whiskey of the week because it's been a while since we've done this whiskey thing. And I did talk to my wife. My wife's a doctor. And she said one of the things that will help me feel better is if I drink some whiskey. And I was like, really? This is like the greatest thing ever. An excuse to drink more bourbon? Yes. So what we've got today, you can see in the camera here, is we've got, turn the bottle a little bit. It's called Old Grandad is the name of the label. It's made by the Jim Beam Distillery.
I got it.
It is a Kentucky bourbon. And the 114 means what, TK? Take a stab at her.
114 years of the brewing process. I don't know. It's probably the company is 115 years old.
That would be a really awesome guess, except that's not it.
What is a 114? Excuse me.
114 proof.
Oh,
So it's 57% alcohol. So this one is definitely going to have a little more bite, or what the aficionados might say. They might say spice rather than bite or burn. They'd say spice. So this one's definitely going to have a little bit more, but there are some. I've had some. You can see the bottle's already open because I couldn't help myself. I was so excited to find this.
What are you, Tom?
Yeah, I am. Hey, Tom, I know. He's infecting me. Yeah, so anyway, so there are the bourbons that are really hard to find are called allocated or allocations. And that's where they either are, they don't make that much, there's not that much in production, or they're in so much demand that only like this mom and pop liquor store might only get a case a year or something.
Right.
So that would be considered allocation. And what a lot of liquor stores do, and what we're finding as you get more and more into the bourbon community or whiskey in general, is that you got to get in good with these liquor store owners. You got to be kissing some rear end and making, you got to be shaking hands and kissing babies and doing all that stuff to get on their good side, because when they get these allocated bottles in, they typically do not put them on the shelves.
Right, they save them for their good customers.
Yep, they put them exactly right. You know all about this.
You bet.
So they
I used to drink.
when they so when they get these in, they will keep them in their office or keep them in a storeroom or something, and then, as you said, they'll call some of their best customers to say, hey, I just got an Eagle Rare, or I just got an Colonel E.H. Taylor, or I just got a Old Grandad 114. I just happened to get lucky enough going to our local liquor store. My son's here today, my 12-year-old. We'll get him on camera in a minute, but so he when I was in Rosemount, I stopped up there to get some pizza at the Papa Murphy's for the family. They've got some great gluten-free pizza, by the way. Plug for Papa Murphy's. And there's a liquor store right next door, and I was like, you know what? I've never even been in there. I'm just going to go take a look and see what they've got for bourbon. And I'm scanning the bourbon aisle, and on the bottom, about 2/3, 3/4 the way down, here was the Old Grandad. And I was
bourbon that my father used to drink, and probably his father, and an uncle of mine, and an aunt of mine, and my aunt, when she passed, she's from, my mother's side of the family is from Detroit. I inherited a little pint bottle of Old Grandad, and I had it sitting on my shelf for years. And one day I just couldn't resist. It was gone in the blink of an eye.
And it was good, right?
Oh, it was really good.
Yeah, this is so. What I was going to say before I went on my tangent about allocation is that, despite being a higher proof, this still has a very sweet note in it. It's very flavorful. It's not just a punch in the face. So
how about a question for you?
Yes, sir.
I guess that it was 114 years old, the company. How old is the company?
You know, I'm not sure.
Probably closer to 200, I would imagine.
I know Jim Beam makes it, so it's in the Jim Beam family.
How old is Jim Beam?
Oh,
I know,
probably 200 years old.
Booker Beam.
Booker's is fantastic.
Yeah, I used to like to drink that.
My dad gave me a very high-end Booker's for Christmas this year.
Oh, really?
It's in a decorative box with a plexiglass cover on it and everything.
Cool.
Yeah, not opening that one for a while. We'll save it for a special occasion, like maybe when Michael graduates high school or something. So Michael gets to try, not that I'm contributing to the delinquency of a minor, but he does get to try like a little, little tiny, not even an eyedropper full.
Right.
When I break bottles, and we've been working on his nose so he can recognize flavors and things like that with the whiskeys, and he's doing great.
Side note: Jim Beam, the Beam family has been producing whiskey since 1795.
So it's over 200 years.
It was interrupted by Prohibition, but 1795.
That's 227 years if my math is right.
Boy, Prohibition, what a bad idea that was.
Yeah, awful.
The product of Prohibition was major league crime and organized crime. But we don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I could sit and talk about that whole Prohibition thing for like an entire episode.
Right.
I've got a wealth of knowledge about that one too. But anyway, Michael, he wants to pour, so we'll let him come in and do the pour.
Yeah, it's plenty, bud.
No,
Thank
you better give your old man twice that. Because it's good for me. Mom said I should drink it. Perfect. Good job, buddy. You want to put the cork in it?
Mom said that you should only have 2 ounces, no more.
Yeah, that looks like it's about 2. There's some rocks in there. All right. So anyway, cheers
Mom said
to everybody.
If he drinks enough, maybe he'll come home and take a nap and won't bug me.
Right. Jill, did you want some?
Happy
Linda, you want some?
birthday. A little birthday toast for you.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It is good.
You see the spice there?
Mm-hmm.
Higher proof. There's a little bit more spice.
Well, you can definitely distinguish the Jim Beam quality to it.
Yep.
You know, it has a Jim Beam flavor to it.
Yep.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
For those of you that maybe have never seen Boots and Backstraps, we always take a few minutes and talk about a different bourbon every week. And Shayne has become a bourbon aficionado. He learns the history of the bourbons, and, you know, that's a big deal. You know, they're wine snobs or whatever you want to call them. But so
you
many
have a
people.
cough button.
I know that one snuck
Shame.
up on me. Sorry. I couldn't get to it fast enough, and I wasn't going
Thanks,
to cough.
Danny. I didn't want to. I was going to say something, but
I didn't want to cough in Tom's face.
I'm
so.
trying to learn to keep my mouth shut.
How's that working for you?
I don't know. Ask my wife.
Off camera.
So at any rate, we showcase a different bourbon every week, and it's really fun. And myself, and I guess I don't care that anyone knows, I pretty much have quit drinking. I'll maybe have a beer once a week, maybe. But I really, for the most part, don't drink anymore. It doesn't really agree with me anymore.
Sucky.
But I still do appreciate the taste of a good bourbon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the idea with my son is training him to understand what it is to drink responsibly, to appreciate the history and culture that goes into making the bourbon, and not seeing it like a frat boy where he's just drinking as much of it as he can in a short period of time to get drunk. We don't do that. We don't get drunk.
We don't do that ever.
Nope. We don't get drunk at our house. Have a little bit of bourbon.
Right.
As I tell my other friends that come over that are now getting into this bourbon thing, I'm getting kind of a movement going locally.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell them all the time, like, if you can't taste it anymore, stop.
Yeah.
If your taste buds have gone to that point, speaking of not drinking.
Boy, I wish somebody would have told me that when I was younger.
Yep. Like if you can't taste it anymore, you're not drinking anymore to appreciate what you're drinking.
Right.
So you stop.
And if you can't correctly use the English language, that's another sign to quit drinking.
Yeah, S's get real tough.
Oh, there's another one we could talk about all day. Let's talk about
Some hunting.
hunting. A lot of people tune in to hear us talk about hunting, and we're going to recap this year's hunts, and maybe what we're going to do is maybe a spring turkey hunt. But we had a lot of fun this year. We really had a lot of fun.
Some great trips.
We always start out the hunting season with an antelope hunt. And if you've heard any of our shows before, we've talked about this a few times, but Shayne was not raised as a hunter. What do we got going there?
That's on our way out to our antelope spot.
I gotcha. And so I kind of mentored him into hunting, and we would go up to full draw archery right here by my house, and we'd practice many times a week for a long time, and he got to be a very proficient archer. And his first hunting trip ever was an antelope hunt to northwest South Dakota, and there's a family ranch out there. They have thousands of acres where we stay, And the first arrow he ever flung was at an antelope. He hammered that antelope at 60 yards. And for those of you that think it's unethical to shoot an arrow at 60 yards, with modern equipment these days, it's become very commonplace. And if you practice at 60 or 70 yards, I mean, every year for years I shot in a 100-yard shoot, and you should see these guys and the new equipment. You can pop a balloon at 100 yards. I used to be able to pop a balloon probably 8 out of 10 tries at 100 yards. So that's just the equipment. And anyway, he
And
hammered
that year,
it in.
we shot a lot that summer. I mean,
Oh,
we
yeah.
were both about a 3-inch group at like 80. So
Right. So he hammered his first antelope with his first shot on his first hunt, right through the heart, broke both of the legs. We watched the thing tumble, and it was really exciting. I mean, he was kneeling right in front of me, and he was just dialed in. He had the eye of the tiger, and I'm thinking, ooh, 60 yards your first time, and when that arrow popped that antelope, I was like, holy cow, that was great. So anyway, this year we went to the same place, and the antelope aren't as plentiful as they used to be anywhere, even in Wyoming.
they got coyotes.
Yeah, lots of coyotes. I don't know how it is down in eastern Colorado or New Mexico. I don't know how the population is, but I know in the Dakotas and even Wyoming, it's down considerably. So we've been hunting that land now for 3 years, and we've got the water holes figured out, and we've got every decoy known to man. We have a cow decoy, we have antelope decoys, we have an antelope hat that I should
That's
have had
my
on.
favorite.
Yeah.
I
That's
should
my
have had
favorite.
that on when I was stalking that one big buck that took off and I missed. But we have a lot of fun out there.
I wish we would have found the spots that we had this year, or in 21, this last fall, 2 years ago, because
I
they're
know.
great spots.
Oh, they're excellent spots. So I did, fortunately, hammer a nice antelope this year.
There it is.
Yeah, just a juvenile.
Big body, though.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, I don't think that thing was. Well, it might have been. It's hard to tell. It's hard to judge distance out west, but it was no more than 20 yards from me, and that was just fun. Antelope are such a fun animal to hunt. The hardest animal on the planet to hunt, in my opinion. They can see like no other animal. I think the only other animal that has eyesight similar to theirs is the turkey. And I don't know which one's better, the turkey or the antelope. But their hearing is exceptional.
They're the
smells-
fastest land mammal
Yep.
in North America.
They're tough. And I got a friend out in South Dakota who, with his bow, spot and stalks, kills a Pope and Young antelope every year. And I've known him for over 20 years, so he's got a lot of antelope on the wall. So that's quite a feat. It's kind of nice sitting on a water hole, but it's a lot of fun to get out and decoy them or even stalk them if the wind and the terrain is correct.
That's the challenge out there, right?
Yeah.
When you're hunting the plains, you don't have cover.
No,
It's wide open. So not only can they see you, but as you just mentioned, they can smell you.
right. Yeah, they have eyes like no other. It's amazing. They when I first started antelope hunting, I'd sneak up, I'd belly crawl up a hill, and I learned to wear elbow pads and knee pads because of all the ground cactus. And you'd pop your head through just a clump of sagebrush, and the herd could be, I'm serious, and I know there are people that'll confirm this, the herd could be a mile away, and you pop your head through, and all of a sudden, a dozen heads turn, and they look right at you, and you're like, what? They can't be looking at me. And you look around, and I learned that they're looking at you. They can see like no other animal. It just amazes me.
Yeah.
And so we had a good antelope hunt, and
And then usually we would go out to Colorado
Right.
and chase elk in the mountains, but we didn't do that, TK. And why, Big Spender, did we not do that?
well, we had a connection out there, and it kind of fell through. I have a really great guy, Terry. Remember Terry?
Yep. Mule guy.
The guy runs mules out of Colorado, and just a salt of the earth guy. And I think maybe, I don't know, he had a couple spots, but he wasn't sure about the licensing and Witchstone. He's about my age, so he's a little older guy, and he, I think he was getting frustrated and getting busy because he's a very talented tracker, and he's the guy that found my elk with his mules. He was on his mule when he found my bull when we were in Colorado a couple years ago, and I don't know, it just didn't happen. He couldn't figure it out, so we didn't go.
Well, and you had your sights and your wallet set on Wisconsin.
Oh yeah, yeah. We bought a piece of property in Wisconsin. My wife and I, 40 acres, and we spent a lot of time over there, and we have wonderful stories about that piece of property. It's 40 acres, just a little southeast of Frederick, Wisconsin, and
Butts up against hundreds of acres of state land.
And I'm telling you, the terrain there is just beautiful terrain. It's like very hilly, lots of water, lots of lakes. I mean, I know there's water there. There wasn't any water last fall because of the drought. A lot of lakes and ponds and small bodies of water were dry. But just walking around the terrain was amazing. It was so beautiful. And, it butts up to hundreds and hundreds of acres of, thousands of acres of public land. And this public land isn't real accessible. So when I was there was nobody on that public land.
Right.
Which is pretty rare these days. Usually public land gets hammered pretty good. But there was nobody. As far as I went, maybe quite a ways to the west or to the south there was people, but there wasn't anyone up in the northeast part of that property. And it's pretty cool. Pretty beautiful piece of property. Real excited. And not only did we acquire this property, we made two great friends, Tiff and
Justin and Whitney.
Justin, yeah, Tiff. I was thinking Tiffany, not Whitney. Whitney and Justin, and we put our camper. It's not a camper; it's a mobile home. And
Park model.
It's a park model mobile home. But they're salt of the earth too. Just great people, and
They are.
we were trying to figure out how we're going to stay in a motel, if we're going to pull the camper that we bought for antelope hunting out. And through the conversations, Shane's mother-in-law says, I've got a park model mobile home that we never use. Why don't you just take that? And we're like, what? Really? And
With furniture.
fully furnished, and it's hardly ever been used. And it was like, it's just this beauty. Do we have pictures of that? Because I do
got
have
video.
Pictures on my phone of, there's a picture of something. Oh. That's the back bedroom. No, it's not.
That's the
front
front
bedroom.
That's where I was sleeping.
Right.
Got the TV. We have a TV and DVD player in there.
Yep.
Not that we used it much, but we did a little.
And you must be fond of that shot.
I think he's saying, is that a heater right there?
It's a portable heater because
Oh, yeah.
we had stories to talk about with the furnace on that thing. Got to figure it out, but it was
Can't imagine.
a challenge.
Heaters
at
are
first.
necessary.
Especially out there, man. It was cold.
Is there sliders on this? Like, is this a slide out?
Yeah.
They don't
Well,
slide in.
They don't slide. They did slide out at one time, but they don't slide back in.
Gotcha. And look at that chair.
Oh, it's
I mean-
very
It's got an
comfortable
ottoman
for-
in front of it. and
I
then-
mean, I think my mom had that set back in the 70s. Pretty
What do you
sure.
mean had? She probably still does somewhere.
No, she likes
See, this
switching
is
her
one of
furniture
the-
too much.
That's
The
one of
couch.
the bump outs or slide outs. But
Okay.
as we found out, they don't. There's my dog.
Yep,
There's the Ace Man. He's a good boy.
Yes, he
He's
is.
going to be turning 91 years old.
It's my hunting
Woo!
bucket there and Tom's cookware bucket on the table there.
Nice.
Yeah, and that's the dining room table. And I assume you're going to continue panning.
Yes, sir.
There's a hallway to the bathroom. But look at that kitchen.
And
There's
a sliding door?
Yeah, there's
You
step outs.
fancy.
And it's all the stuff is like brand new.
Wow.
So before we got the furnace running, we were using the oven as a heat source, which is why it's open.
And
Oreos.
Can you pause that?
Ugh.
So that bucket tell people about the bucket thing, Tom, because that's pretty
well,
cool.
we don't have plumbing because we pulled it on the backside of their shed, And so I put a bucket underneath the sink so when you can wash your hands, brush your teeth,
Nice.
and have all the water that a guy needs. And then there's the Oreo cookies on top. That's important.
It's a dire necessity, I'm pretty sure. That's smart, though. That's innovative.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was all Tom. He was like, I'm going to bring my jug, 5-gallon jug. We'll fill it up with fresh, usable, or potable water for brushing teeth and washing hands. And then we'll just put this 5-gallon bucket underneath and
Genius.
dump that out as it needs to be.
That refrigerator, everything. It was funny, the microwave that you went by, you don't have to go back. But the microwave, I'm trying to figure out this microwave because sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. So I'm trying different plugs. There's a bathroom. Different outlets, and I'm thinking maybe the breaker and the outlet's gone. It turns out you just got to slam the door. You got to slam the door on the microwave to get it to work.
Nice.
So little things here and there, but that,
Who's that guy?
I don't know, some hillbilly hunter doing
Someone
drugs.
just
That's old granddad, 114 right there.
he's just stashed in the back. It's fine. Oh, so he gets the big bed. I see how it is.
He gets the master bedroom,
All right.
closet, dresser, the whole
Yeah,
thing.
and you know, with the furnace running or the electric heater running, and both doors closed, I don't hear Shane snoring. I mean, that is kind of humorous, but
That's
if
huge.
you're a guy,
it is big in there, yeah.
if anyone knows the,
Pause that for a second. Yeah. So we have another bed just like that one that's stored underneath this bed, so we could easily sleep. Can the couch pulls out?
My brother doesn't.
Unlike your brother,
I know. He has a shirt that says that.
he
well,
does.
They're both
His best friend
bunk
gave it to him.
beds, so we could sleep 4 right up in that front row right there.
Yep.
Because
So you,
both of them are bunk beds.
4 up there and 2 in the back. You could pretty comfortably sleep 6 people in that.
Wow.
which we ain't never gonna do.
Now,
2, 3, 4.
That'd be too damn crowded.
yeah.
I mean, if you were getting creative, well, you could get up to like 8 to 12.
No. We don't have that many. I mean, it would be a situation where maybe if we brought our wives, you do that. But from a hunting standpoint, that's not going to work because there just are not enough spots on the land
Right.
where you're
It's
not.
only 40 acres.
Yeah, you're not. You'd be concerned about shooting at
Only
each other.
40 acres. I've always been curious about that though. About like, so you're going hunting with how many people? How do you not shoot each other? But I suppose you guys scout out your locations and
Oh, yeah.
safety and.
You know, a good answer to that question is typically deer stands are up high, so you're typically shooting down towards the earth, which is a huge huge part of the equation for like that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Whose frog butt is that?
Are you taking pictures of my butt again?
Now was So what happened was Tom worked out a deal with the neighbor farmer to purchase this deer stand that he had out there that had been out there a long time and unused. So we took Tom's 4-wheeler down there, and Tom was up there cutting the straps that are holding it against the tree. And he's like, "Hang on to the bottom of this ladder. I'm going to climb up here and cut these straps." Okay.
You know, before we go any further, I want to finish what I was saying.
Yeah.
Those of you that have sleep issues, you know what I'm talking about. It's like you do anything you can to get your quiet and get your sleep. So even though that's kind of a funny story about closing both doors and having the heater running, it's really something, a guy that doesn't get any sleep. Like last night, I got 2 hours last night, maybe 2 hours this morning. It's a curse, but it's gonna get better.
Yeah, we've learned now after hunting together for 5 years that we can't do this like a hotel room together.
Right. Well, we
'Cause
can.
It's even with you wearing earplugs, you still find a way to hear me.
I know. It's a bad deal, but
He's always yelling at me in the middle of the night. Shane, flip over.
shut up! Shut up! You're killing me. Doesn't get that bad. So the property, yeah, we got that deer stand for $35, and I said to the guy, he's a real nice guy, and I said, "Well, do you ever use that stand?" He says, "No." I said, "Well, I'll buy it from you," and he says, "Sure." And I said, "How does $50 sound?" He said, "Too much, 35." I'm like, "Well, that's nice." He's a pretty cool guy.
Yeah, because those new were $150
Oh yeah, yeah.
for a ladder stand like that.
Yeah. So that was a good deal, and we've got so many cool places. We did not harvest a deer off that property this year. We spent a lot of time trying to figure out the property where the deer were traveling, and they had nothing to eat on our property. There was no forage for them, so we're building food plots this spring,
Yep.
and we've
Gonna
got
Put my son's back to work.
yeah, and so we're gonna put in a few food plots, and we're gonna blaze some trails, and I've got probably a half a dozen different locations for stand placements where the deer were traveling through, and the neighbor's got, he's got better forage than we did, but that's another story. At any rate, we didn't harvest a deer on the food, but we had a lot of fun. I mean, it was really fun. Why don't you share I've been talking a lot today. Why don't you share the story of how we got that park model RV from up by Moose Lake, Minnesota, Sturgeon Falls, right?
Sturgeon Lake.
Sturgeon Lake.
Yep.
All the way to east of Frederick, Wisconsin. Well, I can start it out by I got a buddy of mine from River Falls, Wisconsin, to bring his big diesel truck up.
Oh, it was just a beautiful piece of machinery.
Oh, man, and he wasn't intimidated by it all. And we couldn't figure out how to get the bump outs in, and then Shane went online and take it from there.
Yeah, so obviously where she had it was behind a couple of the garages on the property.
Right.
So we went in there, secured furniture, made sure that it was going to be travel safe, as far as stuff in the cabinetry and all that kind of thing.
And the tires, yep.
Tires, pull it out onto the roadway so that we could get the slide outs pushed in and then hit the road. Well, we're looking everywhere inside the camper, couldn't find a button or a crank or anything. Looking everywhere outside, couldn't find a button or crank or anything. The bottom of the slide outs didn't have actual slides on them.
Right.
So we're like, how in the world do you do this? So I pull up the old Google, and I'm flipping around on there, and I looked at probably half dozen different forums talking about this particular park model or park models in general. And as it turns out,
they don't go in.
They don't go in. Like, they're manufactured out, and they stay out. Like there's no sliding involved. When they build it's a mobile home, you can see its trailer, and then they build the what would be a slide out, and they just hold it up to the thing and bolt it on, basically. Like,
Yeah.
There's no sliding of any kind.
And what makes it equally as deceiving is there is a great big V trailer hitch in the front. So you think, well, this is very mobile.
Yes.
It ain't.
Nope. Like, that literally is just there to transport it to wherever it's going to go with the intent of it going there and then never moving again.
Right.
Which is what we said with this. We're like, okay, once we get it out to the Wisconsin deer camp and get it set up where we want it, it's not ever moving again. So once we realized that it wasn't going to go in, it was a matter of, okay, how are we going to pull this off? Well, right away we know, as you said, Tom, we can't take it on the highway.
Right.
Because you can't drive highway speeds with those bump outs sticking out.
Right.
Not that his truck couldn't pull it, but
yeah, his
wouldn't
truck
be
could
safe.
pull it, but the tires were a little suspect too.
Yeah, so they were brand new tires.
What year was it?
I think it's 20-something years old, 21, 25, something like that years old. But the tires were in immaculate condition for its age because she kept them covered.
Right. Oh, that's right.
Had covers on them. So when we pulled the covers off, there wasn't a split or crack or sun fade. I mean, they looked like they just got put on last week.
Right.
They were in perfect condition.
And they were full of air too. We didn't have to put it. We didn't have to put air.
Well, my brother-in-law put air
that's right.
in a couple of them. Yeah, Joe. To give Joe some credit, he did go out there and put air in them. So anyway, so when we got there, they were good to go. They were ready to get on the road. So anyway, so we got the situation where we can't take it on the highway. So Tom's like, well, we'll pull a little Dukes of Hazzard here and go back road all the way over there.
And we did.
We did. So we're just south of Sturgeon Lake, coming into Willow River, and hit this little mom and pop gas station. And we're like, we got to find something we can flag those bump outs with, just to give them some designation on the road so people can avoid them, right?
Yeah, and back up just a little ways. Old Marty, my buddy, Marty from River Falls, Wisconsin, he's always up for a challenge, so he wasn't intimidated. He says, we'll pull that thing over there.
Ram 2500 heavy duty with an intercooler and a transmission upgrade on it. He was like, I could pull this trailer and 4 others behind it. It's like, all right.
Do we have any pictures? We got to have pictures of this.
Yep, somewhere pictures and video. I thought because I think we kind of told this story a little in a different podcast.
Yeah, we
I
might
think
have.
we did. I think we did.
So we have them somewhere. Maybe Danny, you can take a peek, and if she can find them, she can find them.
'Cause-
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So, anyways,
So we stopped at the gas station.
and we couldn't find anything red. What did we find,
Orange.
TK?
We're looking for some orange. Well, yeah.
We wanted red.
So Marty goes in and he says, "Well, these will work." He bought a pair of blaze orange hunting gloves, extra large, and he tacked them to the bump outs. It was like going down the road. It was like we were waving hello or goodbye to somebody. And as I come to find out later, somebody said to me, "Well, if you'd attacked, and I have one here at the house, one of those triangle slow-moving vehicles, that would get you around a couple of the tickets that we could have gotten."
Okay.
I don't know. I don't think the tabs are updated.
Oh, those tabs are 20 years old.
And I think we could have got nailed for about 5 different things.
At least.
But, we went through, what did we go through? Danbury, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And we went south through,
So you and Marty were in the truck.
right,
I was in my car following you guys
Right.
to make sure that it was safe from behind the
Right,
camper.
right.
And so we went 80 miles like that.
right.
And relatively little traffic, right?
I know it, but it was so funny being in the truck pulling that with the bump outs out. Everyone that went past us had their hands up in the air, and they were going, "Are you crazy?"
Yep, we are.
And they were like hand signaling and gesturing, and
We're like, yes,
we're
we
like-
know we're driving a trailer with the bump outs out. We know. Like people don't realize that. Like they're looking at you like, do you know your slide outs are out? Like, yeah, knucklehead, we know they're out. We put the gloves on them.
well, they're the ones thinking we're the knuckleheads, but it's pretty hard to explain to each driver. They're going, "Well, these don't really go back in, so thank you for the bird or whatever you gave us."
Yeah.
Danny, did you find something? I saw you flash something on the screen there.
No, I thought that was it, but it is not.
I know
so.
you actually took a video.
I put it online.
I could find that.
You know what? Hold on a second, Danny. I think I might have it in my because I sent it to my wife and my mother-in-law.
Did you put it on your Facebook?
I sent it through Messenger,
Then you're gonna have to messenger it to me.
which I can do.
Cool.
I will look for that really quick. So we had a decision to make, right? TK was like, we're either gonna do what we did to get it over there, or we're gonna have to hire some professional
Right.
company for $1,000 or whatever to drag it for us.
So we did what we did. Do-a-diddy-diddy-dum-diddy-do, and we got it done.
We got it done.
Don't
We went
regret it at
through,
all. It was super
we
fun.
went through Duxbury, we went through Grantsburg, and we went through Frederick. None of which are really, really big towns, but as luck would have it, and as prayer would have it,
I bet there was
we
a
never got pulled
lot
over.
of praying on the way there. Like,
we
please,
did a
Lord.
little huddle and prayed that we'd make it there, and we did.
Good.
Danny, you should have those now.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah, it was a laughable trip. It was maybe it wouldn't have been so funny if we had gotten pulled over, but it was.
We can explain. That's what. That's where
Marty
you
was
start.
laughing the whole way. He's like, "Look at this guy! Look at this!" So there's the video of Shane following us, and to the right, I don't know how close he gets there, or no, to the left rather. You can see the bump outs.
Right here. Yep. Woo! I was
And
looking
so
for the
he was
gloves.
hugging the white line on the right
To keep the
And
bump outs in
to keep the bump outs on the
lane of traffic.
yellow lanes in the middle. Oh, that was fun. Did somebody hear a goose?
I heard a goose.
Yep. So anyway, so we get this thing out to Wisconsin, and as you previously mentioned, our friends Justin and Whitney, our new friends in Wisconsin that were the ones that own the property you purchased, but also own the connecting 15 acres where we parked this camper. We became good friends with them, and they prepared the spot for us.
Right.
So they allowed us to park it right behind their detached building. And then he wired up an outlet for us on the back of that garage.
Wired up a 210. I mean, it was amazing. He's so handy. Are we supposed to both drink at the same time?
Yes, sir. Yeah, wired up an outlet for us so we could, have the camper set up with electric.
Yep.
And then he was very handy and helpful for us in getting that furnace situation figured out on the camper. But so we get it out there, and Danny, were you able to get any of that uploaded?
I'm working on it.
Okay. So when we get it out there and get it in the spot, then the next task we have to do is to get it blocked up, right, TK?
Yep. That went well, considering we had some tight squeezes, and
Yeah.
you cut up all those 2x6s, and
Right.
we got it blocked up really nice. We used a lot of blocks,
We did.
which we got free of charge, again, from your mother-in-law.
Yeah, she had
She
all
had a whole
those,
pile of them.
and that was all from when she had when they were using that camper.
Right.
They had it blocked. So she had all the blocks, and she gave us two prefab stairwells,
Yep.
one for your bedroom,
Right.
and
One for the sliding door.
wide one for the sliding glass door, nice wide one. So it's as, here we go. Here's where when we first got it out there. So it's not blocked or anything yet. You can clearly see there aren't any block stacks. But
And
that's
the
where we parked it.
stairwells aren't there. Who's that, you or me?
That's you.
Oh, it's leaning, so I'm straightening it out.
So we did is we put cinder block stacks across the front in 3 different spots, across the back in 3 different spots, and then underneath those slide outs in a couple of different spots on each of those. So we used quite a few blocks to make sure that sucker was rock solid. It wasn't going to tip, twist, turn.
Yeah, and it is rock solid.
It is. And you're walking around in it. It's just like being inside your house.
Right. It's a cool setup.
Yeah, it's great.
Tell them the issues we had with the furnace. It's a good thing I had my friend from Ellsworth who works on camper. He has this business, a mobile business, where he pulls a trailer, and if you call him and you have issues, any issues at all with your camper,
Yeah.
and for instance, like winterizing your camper,
Yeah.
that's what he does. He goes to your home, and he's just the most helpful, great Christian man, and had him on the phone, sending him pictures back and forth. We had him on the phone for like 45 minutes, and he was so helpful.
Yeah,
All right,
one-
I'm gonna interrupt you guys because I want to get to this hunting. I don't know if you guys hunt. Where did you hunt first, Wisconsin or Minnesota?
Minnesota.
We should talk about it.
Yeah, can we, do we need to, are we up against it? Do we need to take a break?
No, we don't have to take a break.
Okay, cool. Let's just,
Yeah, I suppose we are dragging this one out a little bit.
no, it's fine, because I do want to talk about more with the camper, but she's right. We should talk about the actual hunt in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So that was before. So we bailed on the elk trip because we, our like you said, our connection, our guy out there couldn't pull it together, and then we ultimately ended up having to spend so much time out in Wisconsin trying to prepare to hunt out there, getting that trailer set up, that we just couldn't be in 2 places at once. Obviously,
Right.
we did get an invite you have a standing invite, and I got invited to join to go hunt northern Minnesota.
We have it on video that you got an invite, don't we? Mr. Duray, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We have it
Yes.
on video. He did invite you on video. We can send that to him if he ever
Yeah.
goes, no, Shane, not this year. Be like, oh,
For those
no.
who are wondering, I don't know, 40 years ago when I went to work with Tommy DeRay at the Hog's Breath, I was really big into hunting, and he had a huge piece of land up in the northwest corner. And I said, well, do you ever go up there and hunt? And this is when I first got to know him. He goes, not really. I said, well, let's go up there. I'm thinking, wow, this is a great opportunity. So he and I and Big Steve went up there, and we hunted, and we had a ball, killed a lot of deer. And so ever since, that was like 79, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was 79 we first went up there.
I was 2.
And
I was not.
You were negative.
So it turns out Tom and his brother, who lives up in that area, and his nephew, well, they have a lot of farms up there, and they have thousands and thousands of acres that they farm. And it's really a wonderful place to hunt deer. There's lots of deer. You see a lot of deer every day. Their numbers are down a little bit, but still you see quite a few deer. And so we did a podcast at the Hog's Breath.
I saw deer every day.
And what's that?
I saw deer every day that I was
Oh
there.
yeah, oh yeah. And when the deer population was bigger before the wolves moved in, you'd see at least 20 deer every day. So,
Is this from his land?
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's the main farm. That's the home place. Big Steve is.
How did you get Hank Williams to hunt with you?
Bribery.
Yeah, there's old Hanky Panky, and that's his brother, who's no longer with us. That's myself, the third guy from the left, and Jimmy, who's no longer with us, and Big Dave Miller, who we've had on the podcast. Tommy DeRay's got the military stuff on. He's the owner of the Hog's Breath, and still one of my best friends. And there's Wheels, who we still hunt with up there, and Dennis Colossa on the far right, who was the manager of the Hog's Breath for many, many years when it first opened up. So that was just a little sampling of some
That's
of the
an
gear.
impressive.
You started running down the line
Thing.
from the left and like, he's not with us and he's not with us. I'm like, should I be nervous being your friend?
You should be. No, we're very safe up there. Safety first, always. Those guys died of just some sort of. One was cancer, and I don't remember what the other one was. Sad to say, but that's the older you get, the more it happens. Your friends go, and so we've been hunting up there for over 40 years. Obviously, I guess it's 44 years we've been hunting up there.
Shane, is the videos that you sent, is that from your up north trip?
Uh,
The one where there's two, it looks like two deers.
show me.
I can't. Just kidding.
I'm like, what do you mean you can't? Yeah, you can.
This one?
Yep.
This is from up there?
Yep. It's a couple of young bucks that were fighting in the field in front of me. They were about 250 yards away, which is definitely in shooting range, but they were too small. So Tommy, the guys, Tom and Wheels and
Tom, there's three of us. Toms.
Blaisdell. Yeah, all you guys, they have a hard and fast rule up there that says it's got to be at least 4 on each side, and it's got to be wider than the ears if it's a buck to shoot it. Like that's their rule. If you shoot a 6-pointer or you shoot even an 8, that's outside the ears, you're gonna be in trouble.
You're sitting in the Taj Mahal right there.
No, this is that alley. That's that tree stand.
Yeah.
Ladder stand.
Wait, you name all of your stands?
Yes.
Tell me all the names.
Well, you got like when you're bear hunting, we had the bus bait, and we had the field bait, and we had the swamp bait. And up here, we've got the Taj Mahal. We got
Keep that up for a second, Danny.
the strip, the Tommy strip. We got the Blavitt strip. We have the Burdells, which is a neighbor. Yeah, you got to name them. People either put numbers on them or names to them so that you know where what you're talking about. Like I was on the funnel strip. I was on the funnel stand, rather. And they'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
So where I'm sitting on this particular ladder stand, it's about 25 yards from the one side of that lane that I'm on to the other side. You can see it's kind of a lane. 30 yards?
Yep.
And you can see all the way up on that north side, there's a big open field. It's probably a 2, 3, 4 acre field. And then to the south of me is another big, huge corn field, much larger than the one that's on the north. So they walk this lane, getting from one field to the other, or from one side of the woods to the other side of the woods. And so I saw a lot of deer sitting in that stand coming through there. Now, the deal is Tom gave me some pretty express instructions. TK here said, don't shoot a doe on your first few days or whatever. Wait till your last day to shoot a doe, because I had a doe license and a buck license. And he's like, if you shoot a doe, because we're firearm hunting, that it'll kind of ruin that spot for a couple of days. So you don't want to be, unless you see a big buck, don't shoot a doe until your last day. So that's essentially what I did. Is I saw a crap ton of doe come through that area, and I just let them go. I filmed a couple of them. I took some pictures of a couple of them, but for the most part, I just watched and let them go. And then you've got another video from that north field, the smaller field, that you could see in that last video.
I was just going to say this is funny. So, Shane told me this earlier, but he had to sit in the back because the two Toms needed the...
Yeah,
well, we're way older than he is.
Yeah, that's true. They've got more delicate keisters.
That's right.
Protect them keisters.
So the van, Tom's hunting van, only has 2 seats in it. So I'm sitting in a camp chair right behind the 2 seats so the 3 of us could talk. And when we were driving up there, we're just getting ready to leave the gas station, and the local sheriff comes over.
Make sure to like and subscribe, and please hit that bell icon. Stay tuned for more.
Boots and Backstraps, brought to you by Homes by Shane and produced by Danny Geo Productions.
The journey is a special thing. The journey has meant the world to me. It's special because we've done it together. There's always going to be improvements that can be made, celebrations along the way, adversities to overcome, and maybe a dad joke or two. If I learned anything about the journey and our time together, it's that you've just got to take it all in and do what's right. Continue to grow, continue to live in the moment. The journey is never ending. I'm excited to take this next step in our journey together.
And the local sheriff comes over. So we were sweating bullets thinking we're going to get in trouble because I don't have a seatbelt.
We were going through Motley, Minnesota,
Yeah.
and I came in too fast, and he pulled us over, and I pulled into that gas station.
Yeah.
And I used to go to church in Motley. And so
Of course you did.
I'm small talking to him. And
Did you run a church? Just curious.
did I what?
Did you own a church?
No.
You own everything, so I was just
No.
checking.
Right. Exactly. The one business he hasn't owned.
So I didn't even think about it. I don't think until we left. But we could have gotten a ticket for not having a seat in the back.
Yeah.
But I kept him busy, and he didn't give us a ticket, thank goodness.
You are the schmoozer of all schmoozers. You had this guy telling you about his entire family history after just meeting you. And then he's like, all right, boys, good luck hunting. Be on your way. No ticket, no warning, nothing. Just, see you later.
I am fortunate. I think sincerity is the key. I can remember going across Montana, and, this is when they didn't have a speed limit in Montana. And I'm flying by because I had to get to the next gas station because nature was calling really, really bad.
Sure.
And
Teeth are
I
floating.
got pulled over, and I said, officer, I said, I know I was going really, really fast. I said, and he said, we don't have a speed limit. I said, I can't talk to you about it right now. You might have to pull me over again because I'm leaving because I'm going to poop in my pants. And I just said, you can follow me, whatever you want. I said, I got to get to the next guy. So he did. He followed me, and I ran out to the lavatory and.
Did he stand outside the stall with his ticket book
No.
for you?
No,
Hey, there's no toilet paper. Give me one of them.
I think if you're sincere with them, I think if you don't try and BS them, because they've heard it all.
Yes, they have.
So if you're
Like a priest in confession.
Right.
They've heard it all.
if you're respectful, number one, and if you are sincere, I think they respect the fact that you are showing them respect.
Yes.
And I have gotten out of a lot of tickets by being respectful
And schmoozing.
and I guess you would be the expert on that. So I guess I did schmooze.
Yep, the gift of gab you have, my friend.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've got that much anymore.
Yeah, he
You do. You do.
So when he came up to the window, he had every intent of going over his probably typical, here's why I pulled you over, here's my name, give me your license and registration, blah, blah, blah. And you got right into,
You got to start the conversation.
You from this
with
area?
something
And-
else.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I mean, that guy stood there and talked to you for 5 minutes, and then he's smiling and laughing. We're all smiling and laughing. He says, good luck hunting, and sends us on our way.
And, I have a predator gun in my van
Yep.
for varmints, skunks and raccoons or feral cats. And I have it strapped to that passenger seat.
Yeah.
And I have a rain gear draped over it, not to hide it, just because it hangs nice there. But I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I don't have that thing cased. It's kind of cased because it was draped in a rain gear, but it wasn't legally cased, so he could have got us for that too. It is legally cased now. So anyway, that was a fun experience just getting up to northwestern Minnesota.
Yeah, and so we get up there, and this is my first time being at the Minnesota deer camp, because although we're hunting Duray property, we don't stay on Duray property.
Right. We stay at a friend of ours, Tom Blajeski. We've talked about him. We call him Old Blaisdell. We all have nicknames. And
What's yours?
TK.
Celebrity.
Well, because there's so many,
That's boring.
because there's so many Toms, I'm TK. Tommy DeRay is TD, and Tom Blajeski is Blaisdell or Blaze. So he has a beautiful, beautiful home.
Unbelievably beautiful.
And it's a horse ranch, and it's our deer camp. He's got lots of the deer we've killed in the past. I guess he's got, I counted them, but I think maybe there's like 14 or 15 full-mounted, not full-mounted, but half-mounted deer on the walls. And the
Shoulder mounts.
The iron buck is represented there as well.
Yeah.
It's a replica, but guy who used to hunt with us who's dead also, Paul Wolf.
I'm telling you, I'm getting nervous.
He had lupus or something similar to lupus. Anyway, yeah, it's a beautiful house. We don't rough it. His son comes home and he brings cod or halibut and moose meat, and which we didn't get to taste, but
Jerks.
you know, Dave would bring up steaks and spaghetti. We eat really well, and you know, he's got a big screen TV and just you know, plenty of rooms, plenty of beds, and so it's really nice. We look forward to that trip so much. So Shane was invited up this year. We did a podcast at the Hog's Breath, and Shane made sure that he invited him on film, because I said to Tom,
Get this on recording.
I said, you know, before we go up deer hunting this year, you know, you did invite Shane. He looks at me, he goes, did I? I said, yeah, we made sure he was on film when we were doing the podcast. We probably had you distracted, but you did invite him. He said, well, that's fine. You know, it's not like we're terribly inclusive. We
Yeah,
can't
to
really
be fair, Tommy and I are friendly. I mean, not to the level that you are, obviously, that I've known him 40 years, but I've known him 10 anyway.
You don't want to be to that level that Tom knows him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've known him
Could be weird.
more than 10, probably 15 now. But, yeah, so anyway, I having done the show there at the Hog's Breath, and so
Right.
obviously I'm pretty familiar with him and his wife and his daughters. And
Yeah.
so it wasn't like I was a complete
For
stranger.
those of you that do or do not know, Shane took over the Rowdy Cowboy show. I don't know, how many years ago was that?
2008, 14 years ago.
14 years ago, wow.
Yeah,
And,
WeFest 2008 was the last. Right before WeFest 2008 is when you did your last Rowdy Cowboy show with me at the Hog's Breath.
Right.
And then after that, it was KG and I.
So that's
The dancing
tell
chicken.
Tell them how much, yeah, the dancing chicken. Tell them how much fun you had at your first deer camp in Minnesota.
I had really just had the time of my life. I mean, you talk about a group of guys that are so unbelievably humble and accommodating and generous and thoughtful. You know, I've been around other guys that hunt, and they're very about themselves.
You didn't include wheels in that, did you?
Yeah, no. He let me ride in his truck for about 3 minutes, so I guess that counts for something. No, but seriously, most of the hunters that I've run into, whether online or in person, they're very, like, they don't want to share secrets or spots, or like they're just keep everything close to the vest, and they acknowledge that you're also a hunter, but that's as far as it goes. Well, it was the total opposite experience for me up there at this deer camp. Everybody was like talking about spots and the best places to look, and giving, you know, helping me as a newer hunter, only having hunted 5 years now, all the tips and tricks they could think of about hunting those spots, and, you know, dropping me off and picking me up. I mean, it was just, what an incredible experience. And a group of guys in general.
Well, that's the way it's supposed to be, you know. We have a friend, Robin, who understands that. A lot of people, Robin's been on our show before, and a lot of people don't understand that. I'm, especially at my age now, and Tommy DeRay as well, we're just as excited if you shoot a deer. Like, if you shoot a deer and I don't, that's fine with me. I mean, the new guy getting a deer is like when we start bringing your kid hunting, you know.
Yep.
It'll be just as exciting if they shoot a deer. And like Robin says, the more the merrier. Let's go. Let's fill some tags and let's have some fun.
Right.
Let's get some meat on the ground and get bloody and all that, those sort of things that make it what it's all about. There's no way I'm going to hunt with people. Well, I'm not going to tell you where to go or what to do. Share the experience and let's all have fun.
Not only that, TK, but the camaraderie at night being back at camp.
Right.
Because of the time of year that it is, you can be sitting there eating a meal, having a cocktail, watching an episode of Yellowstone, chatting it up with the boys, eating some chips around the center island or whatever, because you don't have to, like unlike elk hunting in Colorado, where you're up at 4 a.m. to try to get to your spot, you're sleeping for Minnesota deer camp till 7, or 6:30 or whatever.
Yeah, about 6:30. And
yeah, way later.
Yeah, and the days of us going out for a beverage and whooping it up are long gone.
Go to town, ride the Ferris wheel.
We used to go into town and ride the Ferris wheel all the time, and I just can't do that anymore. And think back to it, like when we first started going up to the Thief River area. How did we do it then? We'd go out and party and drink and hit the saloons, and not anymore.
No.
And I like it better this way. But then again, I didn't really care for it that much. I always told my guys, or the guys that I hunt with, a lot of people, when they go hunting, they're getting away from their family and maybe their wife and their work, and they want to whoop it up, and I understand that. Me, I whooped it up for a living.
Right.
I was working the clubs, and I was doing this. When I went hunting, I really preferred to lay low, not go out. But I would go out with them because I didn't want to just say, no, I'm going to stay home. But I preferred to lay low.
Somebody's going to keep those boys out of jail.
Well, that didn't always happen. Yeah, we have a great, great time up there, and I hope we can do it for another 10 years,
Yeah, so one of the other experiences that was super cool up there is the one night that we did go out at night. It was to grab supper,
Right.
and had a cocktail while we were having supper.
Yep.
So we walked into this restaurant, and I'm looking for a spot at the bar where we can just kind of belly up and order food, and order a drink, and that kind of thing. And I turned around, and there's Tom heading right back into the kitchen. I was like, yeah, you can't do that. And sure enough, he's back there hugging and shaking hands with the owner, and so that was pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He owned that bar. He's owned that bar ever since we've been going up. He's had that. It was just actually it was a 3-2 bar. No hard liquor.
It's a cool story though. Like he was the mayor, right?
Well,
unintentionally.
every year, this teeny little town of Newfoundland has a lot of churches, and they didn't want a liquor license in their town. And every year he'd lobby for a liquor license, and they wouldn't get it. So he decided to run for mayor. He won the he became the mayor, made sure he got himself a liquor license, and he was the mayor for 4 years, and then he retired. But then he expanded his place. He got liquor in it, strong beer, and then he opened a kitchen, and he's back there cooking every night, and he's had that place for over 40 years. And his name is Ron. If you ever get up to the Hobo House up by Newfoundland, say hello to Ron. Say hello from Tomcat. He's just a great guy, and they have really good food, and just a great spot to be.
He was a very nice gentleman.
Yep.
He gave us LED flashlights, which was super cool.
Yeah.
Just a really nice guy.
Yeah.
Good service, good food.
Boy, he works hard. Hard-working man. If anyone that's ever been in the restaurant business, he knows how hard it is. There's the deer I shot.
Yep, TK's buck.
Before the rifle season.
Nice big 8.
No, it's 10. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, it is 10. You're right.
And
Forgot about the brow tines.
yeah, one of my buddies thought it was too small, but he doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. It's outside the ears.
Yes, it is.
And I didn't take a very good picture, and I should do a better job of taking pictures. But one thing I like about it is you can see the bow, and you can see the exit hole.
Yep.
And I'm in that stand, Shane, and when you're in the stand and you're daydreaming and you're looking around the woods and you think, God, if a deer would just come right down that trail right there, that'd be so perfect. And not long after I'm thinking that, I'd had a little history with this deer, which I don't need to go into, but he came on that same trail that I was hoping a deer would come down, and he was totally broadside. He was less than 20 yards, and it was just, and I didn't have to shoot through a window, through limbs or brush. He was just this long distance, like this 20-yard spot where he walked broadside to me. I didn't even stop him. I just hammered him at like about 15, 17 yards. And I was one of those things where I just watched him dash off and tail flip, and there he lay. And it was just really, really, really exciting for me.
Exciting for me, too, because I love getting that text message wherever we are, whether it's
Yeah.
South Dakota or northern Minnesota or wherever, and I get that message from you with your whatever it is, deer, antelope, or whatever, and it says, come on now.
Yeah, Lynn's gotten a few of those messages.
I bet she has over the years. So,
And-
yeah, last day that we were there.
Oh, that's the doe you shot.
Yeah, so last day we were there, I sat in the box blind to start with,
Yep.
and I'd been seeing bucks and doe there all week. And I have a little video, Danny, the other video that you got that we were talking about before. Did you find that one? You didn't? Oh. Let me try and send it to you here.
That was a nice doe, and I actually saw you shoot that deer. I was in a strip Tommy stand, and you were north of me towards the north end, and the does come piling out, and whang, you nailed them. Went right down.
Yeah, so I've been seeing deer out of that box blind the whole week that we were there, mostly doe. I did see a nice buck, but he was just too far. He's 400 some yards away, and that's the video I just sent you, Danny, so you can see that. Anyway, yeah, so that one morning, sat in that box blind for 3 hours or 3.5 hours or whatever
Sorry,
it was.
real quick. The one you sent me was the two bucks fighting again.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Never mind. Anyway, I thought I took some video of the other. Anyway,
Sorry. Don't fire me.
no, you're good. So anyway, so didn't see any deer
Right.
in that smaller field that morning, which I thought was really surprising. But you'd already gotten your buck. TD'd already gotten his buck. So you guys both kind of came over and converged and said, here's what we're going to do. We want you to go sit, in that lane
Right.
that we had the photo of or the video of before,
Towards the north end.
and we're going to push the woods and see if we can just push something out for you.
Yep.
So go down there and get in that stand, and then we'll push the woods. And I said, okay, great. So I got my rifle, and I just start walking. I didn't get more than about 30 feet because, Tom's having me working on getting my sight picture faster. So I took probably 5-8 steps and held the rifle up, got my sight picture, and then took 5-8 steps, held my rifle up, and I'm just making my way down to that.
Make it muscle memory, and
Yeah,
so it's just as automatic.
right, because this is my first time legitimately hunting with a firearm.
Right.
I'd always hunted with my bow. So anyway, so after doing that 2-3 times, I get 30 or 40 feet from you guys, and sure enough, probably 200-ish yards out in front of me, maybe not even that, as it turns out, this big buck comes walking out of the woods, walked out into that lane. He walked about, 10, 15 feet off the tree line and just stopped and was just standing there broadside staring at me. So I get that rifle up and I put it on him and I pulled the trigger, and I thought I hammered him. But as it turns out, he was closer than I thought he was.
Right.
And the bullet went over his back because he reacted like he got shot.
I turned around, and it did look like but I guess in hindsight, I think about that, he was just digging into the ground. I thought he was maybe faltering,
Yeah.
but he was just dropped low like they do, and he was just digging up dirt and headed west.
Right.
And
He bolted into the woods on the other side. We went up there and looked for a while.
Yeah, the tracks were obvious where he was, and no hair, no blood, and I suppose it takes a little time to get that sight window up automatically, especially when you've never done it before. And I think you thought that deer was maybe a little bit further than it was, and
Yep.
you ain't the first one to miss, and you ain't going to be the last one. And
So a little painful having missed on that buck.
I've missed plenty in my life.
But then after missing that shot, then the game plan changed, and you boys said, let's go all the way down to the other side of that lane by the big field.
Right.
Stay back off the end a little bit because there is a big trail where they're coming up off the creek that's back there and crossing through that lane to get to the other side.
Yep.
So I set up on one side, you set up on the other side, which is a funny part of the story because as Tom TD pushed the woods, we did have a few doe come up out of there, and I ended up shooting one.
Yep.
Well, after I shot her, because she wasn't more than 15 yards or something like that, and hammered her right on the sweet spot, and you weren't taking any chances.
I didn't. Yeah, well, the deer went down, and but all of a sudden it jumped up, and I've seen too many stories where you lose one. So I'm on the other side of Shane, and he was running.
You were quite a bit further away
right,
too.
Right before it got into the woods, I hammered him too.
So when we went over to get her, because she didn't get more than probably 20 or 30 feet
Right.
into the woods before she fell over and passed away. And so it was a quick expiration, which is always what you want.
Mm-hmm.
When we get over there and we're looking at the bullet wounds, and you got mine, and then yours is like right next to mine.
On the opposite side.
Yeah.
Yeah, the hole.
Yeah, they're like,
My
you can't
exit hole
can
was
you
right
zoom
by
on
your
that, Danny?
Yeah.
You got
you can.
a lower hole and a higher hole, but they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
We don't know whose is whose, but
No. Well, I think mine's the lower one because mine was the exit, and yours is above.
Oh, right.
You can see yours. If
Yeah,
you
the smaller
zoom in
hole.
again.
Yep.
You can see yours was the entrance hole, which is always smaller.
Yeah. Yep. Either way, good to go. Got the job done.
Lots of venison to eat.
Yep. Field dressed her right there. TD does not eat venison because he's a crazy person. So he donated.
Yeah, he's not much of a meat eater.
No. So he donated his deer to my family because he knows I got a herd of people in my house. So we ended up with venison from 2 deer, which we
Didn't I give you mine too?
nope.
Oh,
No, which is fine.
yeah.
You got to eat too.
Well,
Plus, you give yours away. We ended up giving probably close to half of our venison away to
Yeah.
friends and family.
Yeah.
You know, roasts and steaks and sticks and salami and all that sort of thing.
Right.
So
Typically, the deer I shoot in Wisconsin, I give to a
there's
guy
TDs.
from my church. That's TD, Tommy DeRay from the Hog's Breath, and that's a nice 10-pointer he shot. That was a good one. You know, he owns all that land up there, and the last couple of years he hasn't been able to shoot anything, just in the wrong spot at the wrong time.
He was
And
sitting.
it passes up a lot of deer.
He's sitting in the Taj Mahal.
Have I?
No, he was.
Oh, was he? Yeah, he
shot
was
that.
sitting when he shot that. So it's always a good deal when he gets something big and nice.
There's yours.
Oh,
So you can see the rack is outside the ears. No question about
is
it.
that a photo? Is that on your phone?
Yeah.
Would you text that to me, please?
Yeah.
You don't have to do it right now.
Yeah, I'll do it now. We're
Ship it.
talking.
Ship it.
I'll ship it to you.
Ship that to me.
Ship it right on over.
And there's the hunting mobile. As you can see, that's my Chevy Express van, all-wheel drive, no seats in the back. Hunting season, I throw a piece of cardboard down because of the blood. It's all carpeted, and I put beds in there when I'm in the mountains to sleep. It's got a heater in the back. It's the best vehicle I've ever owned. Just can go through anything. I've got 300,000 miles on it, and it still runs like a top. So there's a little Chevrolet commercial.
Here we go. Why don't we call it the Taj Mahal, TK?
That one's taken. Taj Mahal on wheels.
No. I'm talking about the blind.
Oh,
Why do you call it Taj Mahal?
because it's just, you can put 4 people in there. It's huge.
It's the biggest one they got.
Yeah, it's really nice. So I don't know. If you go across the United States, especially Minnesota and Wisconsin, there are hundreds of deer stands called the Taj Mahal. My friend Mark from church has got a 2-seater.
That's Wisconsin.
Oh, that's that little bar?
That wasn't the one, not the little bar where you ate the weird brat thing.
No,
Brat
no,
burger.
but it's the one that we went to a
The
couple
brat burger.
times.
Yeah, that's the second one that we went to. The one that wasn't open the first time
How
we
come you
tried
always
it.
take pictures of me when I look like a complete doofus?
I cannot help the expression you
that
make
one.
when you see me pointing a camera at you. That's our gangster OG Tom.
Holy balls! I gotta stop taking pictures. Or that's
At
you
least
and
this
your,
one's not you.
That's you and the blind and food plot.
It's not Tom, and it's also not gang affiliated.
Good restaurant. I was telling Andrew Jordan about that restaurant, that little bar. That turned out to be a great place. Remember,
Yeah.
we went there and they weren't open yet.
Yep.
But they get their beef for their hamburgers locally. They get their buns for the hamburgers across the street from the bakery.
Yep.
I mean, everything is fresh, and they take a potato, they take a huge Idaho potato, and they run it through the deal that makes French fries.
Yep.
They make each one, and they throw that whole potato in the deep fryer, and they come out like thin. And they got the skin on them. And they're just delicious. They're fresh made right on the spot. So they're 10. I'm like, where did that voice come from? No, they were. It was I mean, so Andrew's going to be. He bought a place up by Yellow River and Yellow Lake, and he's going to stop there because he goes through Frederick and fresh beef, fresh rolls for the buns, fresh French fries. I mean, it just doesn't get any better than that.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
a little spot like that, and they're really doing it right. I don't remember the name of the joint.
So yeah, so Minnesota was a success all the way around. We harvested animals, had a great time, made some fantastic memories. And then we come back and we're getting ready for Wisconsin. So the biggest issue that we had in Wisconsin, TK, was the furnace.
Yeah.
Because it had been so long, 5+ years since that camper had been used. The furnace had been turned on in that long, and we couldn't get it to fire up. So we get a local guy to come out.
Yep.
He was a colorful character.
Yep.
And he's out there working in the freezing cold with no gloves or nothing. He's got his jacket half open, like he doesn't care. A gristled guy.
Fortunately, my buddy from Ellsworth, Wisconsin, had delivered to me a new electronic board.
Yep.
So it needed a board. It needed the striker. Or
igniter.
The igniter.
Yep. So he
And
put a new igniter and a new board, and it still wasn't working like it was. It would go a little, but
Blew
then it would
some
stop.
ice out of the lines.
Blew ice out of the lines. That was a wild experience. You ended up taking our 100-pound LP tank that we got from my brother-in-law over to a shop over here, right?
In Maplewood.
Maplewood. And they put a new...
Great guy. I wish I knew the place. There's a LP place in Maplewood. If you're listening, you have issues with an LP tank, furnace, and just call these guys. Look for them in Maplewood. I can't think of the name, but I'm telling you, this guy was so helpful where I went to like a half a dozen, literally more than half a dozen other LP places. No one could figure it out. And this guy figured out the fitting because it was an older tank. He updated it. He stamped it.
Yep.
And it was...
New regulator, right?
Yeah, it's like $150, and I'm like, are you kidding me? They filled it up. I mean, it was full.
Yeah.
But they filled up a 30-pounder for me too. They were just so helpful, and they just got it. I swear, it's just like the service everywhere. I'm like scratching my head. I said, this is not rocket science, and this should not be this hard a thing to figure out.
So we were out there at that camp messing with that thing between the actual furnace itself, between the tanks, between the lines to the tanks, between trying to get the lines connected to the tanks. I mean, we were out there probably half a dozen times for several hours each time.
Right.
Just calling LP places, trying to get parts, calling places, trying to get service questions answered about the furnace itself. What a comedy.
And now that we
was.
know now, it probably would have taken one trip, grab that tank, take it to the guy in Maplewood, bring it back, because Justin had fixed one of the lines. He'd given us... it needed a new alternator too.
Yes.
So there you go. So there's we got it working, and it works great. And if anyone has an idea how to stop the wind from going underneath, I suppose you can just put up plywood, because you don't want to put hay bales down.
We need a skirt for sure.
We don't want to do it with hay bales because that attracts mice.
Yep.
So we got to figure out a good skirting for it next year.
Yep. We're gonna put rubber membrane coating on that roof.
Yep.
Make sure it doesn't leak.
Yep.
Since it's going to be exposed to the elements. We tried putting a tarp up there, but it hasn't even made it through half of the winter.
No.
And it came down already.
She's
So
a goner, but that was a big tarp. Mike, how many feet was that tarp?
60 by 30.
Wow. That was and we tried putting that tarp up in a windy day, so
Yeah.
that made it
was an adventure.
more interesting.
Tom was getting ready to go up the ladder because somebody had to be on the camper and the other guy's on the ground as the kind of teamwork to get that tarp pulled across that camper because it's so long. Tom started working his way up that ladder, and I was like, get your ass off that ladder right now, because I am not bringing you back with a broken leg and explaining that to your wife.
Why? Did you think I was going to fall?
If you had got up on top of that camper, you would have fell for sure.
Why? Well, you think I'm clumsy or what?
Come on, Tom.
I climb trees all the time, and I climb ladders. Were you worried about
when you
me?
were 25, I'm sure you climbed a lot of trees.
Were
Tom.
you worried about me when I climbed up and cut them straps down off of that ladder stand?
A little bit.
Well,
Don't make me throw the dirt around on the podcast. We're leaving that one alone. Out of respect for you, sir, we're leaving that one alone. So anyway, we did end up getting the tarp pulled across it. It took a little finagling because it was getting hung up on, vent pipes or the air conditioner or whatever that's up on top of that.
Mm-hmm.
So it did take a little bit of finagling with that. You said the wind. It was nasty up there.
Yeah.
So that was a scary deal. But we did get it covered, and it lasted for a month.
What is this picture we're looking at?
I think that's out the back of that tower on the northeast or northwest part of your property.
What is that on the left? Is that? Oh, that's a shadow of the.
Of the tower.
Oh, that's a shadow of the tower that we're seeing on the trees.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. Down there, will be water when the water levels come back.
That will be some marshy.
Right down that hill that you're looking at, there's a bear den. Saw a big bear. I never saw the bear, but I saw big tracks. Huge beaver dam down in that country. It's just beautiful up there. So again, we didn't shoot any deer in Wisconsin, but we had a great time, and that's the inside of. That's your gun.
Yep, my 30-06
That's the inside of
Savage.
that stand, and that's looking south.
So that's going to be a food plot, right, TK?
Yep. That's all CRP right now, but that's going to be a food plot.
So this is your property?
Yeah.
Okay, so then your goal for this one would be to do like food and get them to come back because they're gone? Question
Well,
mark?
they're there. You see their tracks, but once the bullets in Wisconsin, typically, once the bullets start flying, man, if you don't get your deer the first day or the second day, it's a tough go because they've got their hidey holes, and they start hearing the bullets go, and there's very little farmland up there, like where Tommy Dre's, where it's mostly farmland and plots of woods. This is mostly forests and little plots of fields. They've got their hidey holes, and you won't see deer for a long, long time, and then they get real nocturnal. So, as is with most hunting scenarios, it's the first 2 days, and especially the first day is your best chance. Well, we weren't sure of the property. I mean, Shane was in that tower, and I'm surprised he didn't see anything. But again, when they start hearing bullets, they take off for the Netherlands, and hard to hunt them.
So the idea is you set up, because they need three very important or basic things. They need food, they need water, they need bedding. And so
Right.
the idea is to try to get yourself in a position where you're going to be near one of those things. So you can either create a water hole and get set up over that, which is how we hunt antelope in South Dakota.
Yep.
Or you create food plots, which is what we're talking about, where you give them a food source to come specifically to when they're hungry
Right.
as an opportunity to hunt them. You don't want to go to the bedding area generally.
And I guess in some counties in Wisconsin, you can take a 5-gallon pail of corn and throw it out by your stand. And I have never done that. And I did hunt over one of those stands once, and I said, "This is not hunting. This is," and when you put corn out on the field, as a lot of hunters know, or if you just put a pile of corn out there, well, okay, the deer know it's there. They're not going to come out in the daylight. They're going to become totally nocturnal, and maybe the young does and maybe even a young buck might come to them, but
That'd be
I'm
fishing,
not a fan
right?
of it.
It's like fishing.
Yeah, I'm just not a fan of
Put the
hunting
bait
deer
out.
over bait. But planting a food plot, you're not harvesting the food and putting it all in a pile. It's way more natural. Ted Nugent disagrees with me, but I'm sure Ted Nugent and I disagree on a lot of things. But,
The Nuge.
He's a very pro baiting, and I'm like, you got to bait for bear, otherwise you'll never see a bear. And then baiting for bear gives you the opportunity to see multiple bear and figure out if they're sows, small with cubs, and what they are, and then wait for a big bear to come in. If you don't bait for bear or run them with hounds, you're not going to get a bear. So I understand it for bear hunting, but for deer hunting, I'm just not a fan of it, and I won't do it. Just get a food plot going. It's a lot more work, a lot more money, but you're hunting a more natural environment.
So we did end up getting the furnace running on the rig.
Back to the furnace.
Yep. So we had heat, and that worked. I mean, aside because we had kind of an adventure. The first night we stayed out there, it turned out that for whatever reason, what it was is Justin had wired our outlet in with some other outlets in there
Yeah.
in that building.
Right.
And so when we had the 3 space heaters running, it ended up drawing too much power and it blew
Right.
the circuit in the middle of the night. And so we were
And it wasn't
pretty
just
chilly
the
the next
circuit.
morning.
It actually blew something in the wiring because the wiring goes through the insulation in the roof, and he had to replace all of the wiring and go to and build a new circuit.
Right.
So yeah, we bailed that first night.
Yeah, we did. We ended up coming back to your place and getting a few hours of sleep because your lovely missus was out of town. So I, parked on your couch and you got to sleep in your bed.
Yeah.
And then we got up the next morning and we went back in.
Yep.
Went back in, got that furnace running.
So I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to have, Wisconsin. Another reason, this is a long story, but I kind of I'm more in favor of the DNR in Wisconsin than Minnesota. One thing, we spend a lot of money for archery license, and we spend a lot of money for a rifle license. Well, in Wisconsin, you can shoot a deer with your bow, and then you can shoot another deer with your rifle. Bucks. You can shoot a buck with your bow and shoot a buck with your rifle. You got 2 licenses. I wish Minnesota would do that. So I'm going to tell you right now, before we even rifle hunt next year with these stands we're putting in, we're going to harvest deer with our bow. I'm real confident of that. We'll get deer with our bow before the rifle season even starts. That's what I'm really looking forward to next year.
Yeah, that makes 2 of us. I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
So we got our work cut out for us out there to get that land cultivated because, as we said earlier in the episode, it is butt up against state land, so we should see a fair amount of traffic from deer coming through there,
Right.
especially as the hunting seasons get going and all of those normal public land hunters are pushing them across that public
Right.
and over onto your private land. Should have much better shot opportunities
Yep.
to get good deer, to get harvest good deer. Because our goal obviously is to not shoot little button bucks or little forks or spikes. You want to shoot the
Right.
mature deer and let the other deer grow to be mature deer.
Right. Right.
And the way you do that is by letting the other small ones go.
Yeah. And, with the way the hunting's structured in Wisconsin, I don't fault anybody, especially the young people, and even myself. I mean, I've killed dozens and dozens of deer in Wisconsin, and I hunted with a group that, if it had horns, you're going to shoot it. Everything was legal. You had to have 3-inch horns on the deer. Even if it was a spike, it had to be at least 3 inches. And so I harvested a lot of small deer, and I harvested a lot of big deer, a lot of big bucks. But
It's not just a Minnesota policy that it's brown, it's down.
yeah, it just depends on who you're hunting with and where you are. But in Wisconsin, you get the families, you get them young kids out there. You want them to shoot a deer,
Yeah.
and there's still a lot of people in the world, a lot of bow hunters that believe that any buck shot with a bow is a real trophy.
Right.
I mean, it's not easy. And so it's like if you shoot a smaller 6-pointer or something like that with a bow, that's fine.
Yeah.
I want to see people get out there. I like eating venison, and I like pulling the trigger, and I like dropping the string. And I've been fortunate enough to get a couple of nice 10-pointers this last couple of years. And it's a big deal. It's a real big victory for me because of the loss of eyesight that I've found. I've been working on it, experimenting with different sights, and I'm still kind of experimenting, but it's not affecting me when I'm out in the woods or out in the fields. It's the inside lighting that's
Clearly,
really
you double shot my doe from about 50 yards.
So everything's working well, and that was my biggest fear when I started losing eyesight, that I wouldn't be able to hunt anymore or pull my bow or aim at anything. And fortunately, God's blessing me, and I am able to still harvest animals. So
Muscle memory.
Yeah.
And
yeah, a lot of it is shooting a pheasant, as I found out, was muscle memory, because when this eyesight first happened to me, when I went down to Iowa or Minnesota, I was picking up my gun and I was aiming at the bird, trying to see if I could see my sight on the shotgun, and I could see the bird, and I was missing them. And then this year, I was the first bird that jumped up. I just didn't even think about it. I just did the muscle memory, and I pulled up my gun and I shot the bird. I'm like, well, I just got to do that. Like, I just got to not think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to forget about things, because I was actually pulling my head off the stock. I was looking at my bead. I was looking at the bird, and I just wasn't shooting naturally, and I was missing them. And I did get a few, but I was missing more than I shot. And this year I shot everything that I saw, and it was just just going back to the way your muscle memory and the way you're supposed to do it. Hey, let's talk about the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic.
The biggest hunters expo in the Midwest.
Those of you that are viewing via what am I trying to say? Via
Video. If you're watching us on video.
if you're watching us on video, which
Yep.
is typically YouTube, we've got the it's at Canterbury Park. We got the 2022 Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, March 11th, 12th, and 13th. I'll be working the Deer Classic. I'll actually be introducing the speakers like Pat and Nicole,
They're from Minnesota, by the way. Pat
Yeah.
and Nicole are Minnesotans.
Melissa Bachman, and Lee and Tiffany, who are Minnesotans and used to come to the Rowdy Cowboy Show. I've known them for many, many years. I heard that goose again. The goose is loose here.
And we're going to try to get there too. We're
And
trying
we're going to
to.
be hopefully doing a podcast from the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic.
Get to interview all those people.
We'll get to interview them, and
Now,
there's a lot of other speakers that will be not big celebrities like them, but other speakers and other. I'll probably get Rob Dressling, the new owner of Outdoor News, in the booth and do a little interview with him. And
Now, Lee and Tiff, they're in Iowa now. They're
Right.
from Minnesota, but they're in Iowa.
right, they live in Iowa.
Yeah, and you, the claim to fame is you named their show for them secondhand.
Maybe.
Oh, come on, man.
I'll
There's
tell you,
too
you
much
know,
there to not be
That's
coincidence.
pretty funny. I just told that story a couple days ago. My buddy Scott Jordan and I were at the Deer Classic, and there was Lee and Tiffany in their booth, signing autographs and saying hello.
And you
and
knew them.
And just, oh, yeah. And Tiffany used to come up to the DJ booth and request songs, and Lee was there once in a while. And just being a smart aleck, Tiffany walked over to me, and we're standing there chit-chatting, and I said, well, the first thing I said to her was, hey, ain't you that cute little girl that used to have a crush on me? You know, being real sarcastic.
Yeah.
And her mom was standing there, and she goes, oh, I think it was probably the other way around, wasn't it? And I said, yeah, it probably was. Anyway, I don't know if it was a month later, they named their show The Crush.
Right.
And
And now it's probably one of the most popular hunting shows on TV.
oh, yeah, and I don't know that it was because I said that to her. And how often do you ever hear the word crush anymore?
That never.
You never hear it. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe my sarcasm was an inspiration for them to name the show The Crush.
Yeah. An homage to TK.
Oh, yeah. I hope they're not listening to this. They're probably, you're full of shit.
So we're trying to figure out,
I just want to do a quick shout out about Ladies'
Yeah.
Night.
Yeah.
So if there's any lady huntresses listening, if you go on Friday night to the Minnesota Deer and Turkey Classic, it is free for the ladies from 4 to 9 to get in.
Whoop, whoop.
I know. And the first 50 ladies through the door gets a gift. So just shout out to my ladies.
And I would say that
Is it a
Eric-
hug from Tomcat? Is that their gift?
Maybe a hug from Eric. Eric would do anything to get the gals in the door.
I'm going to say maybe.
No,
That's
it's a
big
really good
maybe.
marketing idea.
Yeah.
Get
Well,
the gals in there.
in the last 10 years, women have taken a much more serious interest in the hunting in general.
Just look at Outdoor News.
Yeah.
Look at the women in the reader shots and the women telling stories. And as far as I'm concerned, Shane, and anybody listening, I think it's a total blessing that women have taken such an interest in hunting and fishing and the outdoor sports in general.
Yeah.
Because with the anti-hunters out there, and you know, it's pretty hard for them to get mad at a mom who's out there putting food on the table, killing turkeys or deer or whatever the animal is,
Ridiculous.
and they're not going to do it. And
Those are the same people that go, why don't you just get it from the supermarket?
I've heard,
Like, come on. Like, really?
I've heard people say that women are actually saving the sport, and
Yeah.
kudos to them, and I'm glad they are, and I'm glad and I've hunted with women, and I enjoy it. And my wife's been on several hunting trips with me, even though she doesn't hunt.
I'm gonna get my wife going too, TK.
Yeah.
Now that she's officially a doctor, she
Yeah.
got all that school stuff behind her, and Tucker's getting to the point where he's less and less dependent on her.
Okay.
Get her out there in the woods.
So kudos to the women. Pick up a copy of Outdoor News, and you'll see a lot of women in the shots. And that's a good deal for hunting. And it really sends a message to the non-hunters, not to be confused with anti-hunters.
Mm-hmm.
The non-hunters typically don't care one way or the other, but
Right.
they're seeing all these women, a guy's girlfriend or his wife, and they all want to get into hunting, and I think that's just wonderful. It sends a wonderful message to all the public, and
Well, and especially because you have this stigma of, well, is she just there to be the trophy wife tag along? And then you get people like Melissa Bachman or, Tiffany or Nicole Reeve, that are beautiful women, but also very successful hunters in their own right.
well, I'll tell you, Melissa Bachman, and all
She's
those
amazing.
girls, all those girls are the real deal. I remember interviewing Melissa Bachman when she was not that popular, and she's a very pretty gal, and just, again, salt of the earth, and just
Very nice gal.
very kind and thoughtful woman. And I watch her shows now, and I see the trophies she's harvests. I'm like blown away, and her shows are so professionally done.
Danny put that flyer
Winchester.
for the deer and turkey because she's on that flyer.
What's her show called? Winchester.
I can't remember.
I'm sorry, Melissa. I'm not thinking.
She's got a big 10 or 12 on the flyer.
Well, she's got some monster elk, moose. you
Yeah, look
name
at
it.
that thing. That's a pig. Look at how big that deer is.
That's a huge.
Look at the mass on that main beam.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
and in her program, she harvested like a monster moose. She put that those moose antlers on her own back and walked that thing out.
And
I
she's
mean,
not
it's funny.
and she's not very big.
No.
She's petite, but obviously in great shape. I ran into her not this last summer, but summer before up at Bowfest.
Yeah.
I was with a couple of buddies, and she was just coming off of one of the, what do you call them, routes?
Right.
Trails, yeah, trails. And we were just heading out, and we stopped and chatted with her, and I don't know who was with her. Was her guy or whatever, but she was ripped.
I don't think
Get
she
yourself
was
in
married
shape.
at that time when you saw her,
Sure.
but she's recently married, like in the last 2 or 3 years. She married a DNR guy from South Dakota, and seems like it was a marriage made in heaven.
I was like, was it to get insight on antelope?
I don't know if she was working him or if he was working her, but they seem to really love each other, and it's worked out well for both of them because he's a big hunter and she's a big hunter, and
Great.
her shows, doggone it, I can't think of the name of that show. It's something Winchester.
Lynn, can you look that up real quick, or Danny, one of you on the Google? What's Melissa Bachman's hunting show
It'll
called?
pop into my little pea brain here. Yeah, the Minnesota Outdoor News Deer and Turkey Classic. coming up.
Winchester. Oh, I lost it. Winchester Deadly Passion.
Yep, Winchester Deadly Passion.
So the plan is for us to be out there for a few hours on Friday and Saturday to try to catch celebrities, do some interviewing,
Yeah,
talk to the crowd, do some promotion for the sport in general.
right.
So that's what we're planning on right now. So for those of you that are fans or viewers of Boots and Backstraps, be very excited about that. It's not till March. It's the 10th, 11th, and 12th of March, I believe. If my memory serves me correct.
Yep.
And so we will have more information about that coming soon, and hopefully we'll be able to get somebody from Outdoor News to come sit and talk to us before.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get Rob Dressling, who recently purchased Outdoor News from Eric's dad, Glenn Meyer, and now he's the new owner, he and his partner, and couldn't be happier for him because now we know that the Outdoor News is going to continue on for many decades to come. Rob's been the editor for years, and he gets it, and he knows how to do it, and it's a great magazine. And I don't know if you know, but that magazine is, I shouldn't call it a magazine. It's a weekly newspaper. It's bi-weekly in Wisconsin, but it goes all the way out to New York. There's Minnesota, Wisconsin, Indiana, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and New York.
Sure.
All those have Outdoor News,
Wow.
and they're successful in all those states.
Well, it's a very impressive show.
Yep.
and that there are booths for pretty much everything you can think of as far as outdoor and hunting activity is concerned, whether you're looking for stands, you're looking for weapons, you're looking for
Any kind of gear.
gear, whatever you can think of. They have booths there representing it. That's it. Yep. Winchester Deadly Passion.
She already told us in our ears. Winchester Deadly Passion, Melissa Bachman. Yeah, those 3 girls and those 2 guys, boy, they've got it going on. And, I want to do a little shout-out. I was on the phone with them the other day. Nick Hoffman, Nick's Wild Ride.
Yep.
For those of you that don't know who Nick Hoffman is, he was
Minnesota guy.
played in High Noon for years, and then moved to Nashville. And he was Kenny Chesney's right-hand guy. Played the fiddle, played the guitar, played a banjo, played anything.
To say he played the fiddle is a pretty serious understatement.
Yeah.
Amazingly talented guy.
Yeah, and his show. I don't want to. Pat and Nicole won the Moose Award, and I know Lee and Tiffany won. I love watching Nick's show. He always gets. It's called Nick's Wild Ride. He'll go to Italy or he'll go to New Mexico, and he'll wind up in a local tavern talking about the local food and the local beverages, and he's humorous and informative, and he always typically harvests these great animals, whether it's New Zealand or Australia, Italy, or, Minnesota, his home state, duck hunting, pheasant hunting, big game hunting. It's just a great show. I encouraged him to watch one of our podcasts and let me know what he thought about it, because I think his show is the best. It's not only on the Outdoor Channel, it's also on Bally Sportsnet.
Okay.
On our, where you see the Minnesota Wild and the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's got his shows on that. Encourage you to watch it. Nick's Wild Ride.
All right, y'all. Well, that's going to be it for us today. We got to
All
wrap
right.
this thing up, bring this plane in for a landing. So, TK, it's been fun to sit here with you again.
It's really been a fun afternoon. Just sitting here reminiscing. We never got into talking about bringing the kids out ice fishing with Kid George, our friends from Wisconsin, and we're going to probably do that. And then maybe in another episode we'll talk about spring turkey coming up this
Next
spring.
on the list, spring turkey. You got a lot of work to do on the land out there.
Speaking of turkey, we have yet to get Tom Glines on the show. We will. He'll nailing him down, isn't it? Tom Glines is a big shot for the Midwest
Turkey Federation.
Turkey Federation. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Midwest version of the National Wild Turkey Federation, to be more accurate.
All right, y'all. Well, thanks for tuning in and listening to our stories of hunting, glore, and some comedy along the way. We appreciate you tuning in this week. Don't forget to check us out on all the available video and audio platforms, including YouTube, Spotify, and pretty much anything in the podcast realm. You can find Boots and Backstraps. If you have questions, comments, or snide remarks, you can send those to bootsandbackstrapspodcast@gmail.com, and we will make sure to get through those and maybe even answer a few of them on the show. TK.
I would say also, Shane.
Don't forget to hit like. We need the likes. We need comments. Danny, bring that thing back over here. There we go. Make sure that you hit like. Make sure you hit comment. Make sure you're sharing. All that stuff is what helps us to kind of keep up with the algorithm out there. And so do us that favor. It doesn't hurt you, and, we need it. So do us a favor and pinwheel that like button.
I would say in the near future, look forward to seeing some more country artists. We haven't done any in a while.
Yeah.
And I actually invited Nick Hoffman to be on the show, and he said he'd love to. Next time we can drag him into town. So look forward to that, folks, having some more country artists and country music industry people on the show. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, whether you're belting out your favorite country tune or you're out there pursuing your favorite game animal, I encourage you to use that same passion to pursue the Lord. He'll teach you to shoot straight. Thanks for viewing this week, and we look forward to seeing you next week. Come on now.
The hunt is on, looking for backstraps, way deep in the woods, tracking in a swamp to a hay field under the harvest moon. When the tags are filled, it's time to switch up our boots. Head down to the honky-tonk, get us a swing dance or two. We're talking about boots and backstraps.